Well, the central reason, Don, is we have 6 lawmakers, 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans. The central reason is to show support, bipartisan support of Congress for the people of Ukraine, and also to reaffirm our commitment to NATO. We've had great cooperation from the Polish people. As you know, we've had over 2 million refugees go into Poland, and every single one of them has been placed in a private home. The Polish people have welcomed them into their homes. So we wanted to say thank you for that cooperation and that generosity, and just to strengthen the partnership that we're going to need to get through this.
Congressman, Putin has reportedly finally agreed to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for peace talks. Ukraine's President Zelensky is warning of World War III if peace talks fail. But you've said now is not the time. Do you still hold to that?
Well, as we continue to have these attacks, so I don't have a lot of trust in Vladimir Putin. Remember, this is the same country that denied that they would ever, and they still deny in some circles, that there's an invasion going on. So for meaningful dialogue, meaningful diplomacy to work, you need to have some demonstration that they're going to live by their word. And we don't see that yet. What we see is attacks on the civilian population. So that's extremely troubling. I think there will be hopefully an opportunity for meaningful dialogue and diplomacy, but not while Putin is killing innocent civilians.
Representative Pingree, what's your take on this? What have you seen so far?
Well, this has been a great opportunity to be able to, see what our constituents want us to know more about. Everyone is so troubled. We hear a tremendous amount from people in our district. Why aren't we doing more? Is the aid getting through? So this has been an opportunity to hear directly from the military about how fast the weapons are moving in, from humanitarian agencies about where they can get food, where they can't, how the supply lines are working. And then we've had a chance to talk to individuals. We were at the train station today, and we see the mothers with their kids with big bags full of their stuff, a few toys, warm weather clothes, and these aren't giant Samsonite rolling luggage. They're carrying big bags and just barely what they could get out with. So of course that's very moving, but our constituents want us to know, like, what are you doing? Can you do more? Why can't we stop this now? And I think being able to be here firsthand is a way to really connect on that, get the information from the inside, talk to the humanitarian agency. We've talked to, a Ukrainian parliamentarian. It's really important, given all the decisions that have to be made, to be here and to see it.
Representative Lynch said that he's not optimistic about peace talks. How do you feel about that, Congresswoman?
Well, of course, we're all so impressed by the strength of the Ukrainian people. Grandmothers standing up to tanks. An incredibly diligent military that's fighting very hard. This is a decision of President Zelensky. I mean, this is a decision for the Ukrainian people, and we can't decide for them. What are they willing to negotiate on? When is it going to be okay? But I wholeheartedly agree. Putin is a war criminal. What's going on is really unthinkable. And, we see it on TV. We see innocent children, hospitals being bombed, things that just, are done in civilized society. So I agree. We have to see them pull back. He should be doing that now, allowing for humanitarian escape, allowing for aid to get in. But in the end, whether or not they have a peace talk, whether or not they go to negotiations, they have a very able government, and that is their decision. We're here to support them. As you know, the United States is supplying, tremendous amount of aid. We just appropriated more money, and we will continue to be there to support them and certainly, help in any way we can.
Representative Stephen Lynch and Shelley Pingree, thank you so much for joining us from Poland, by the way. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Pamela Brown, back to you.
All right, Don, we'll take it from here in Washington. Be back to you in Ukraine shortly. Yesterday, we showed you one of the images that will come to define Vladimir Putin's brutal and senseless invasion of Ukraine. A bruised and bandaged mother breastfeeding her month-old baby. Olga and her husband Dmytro were at home when shelling blew out their windows, showering them with glass. Olga's heroism likely saved the child's life. And today she talked about what happened.
I was wounded in the head and blood started flowing, and it all flowed on the baby, and I couldn't understand. I thought it was her blood. Dmytro was taking the baby away. I'm screaming that she is covered all in glass, all in blood. He tells me, Olga, it's your blood, it's not hers. And in the morning I woke up to feed the baby again. I gave her a bath, and I just sat down to feed her, and I like to sit down with knees up, like this. And I cover her with a blanket so she's warm too. And that's what kept the baby alive. I just got her covered in time, and then Dmytro jumped up and covered us too.
Gives you chills, doesn't it? Well, the family is now recovering in a Kyiv hospital. You were in the CNN newsroom, and when we come back on this Sunday, Street by Street, my next guest studies Russian military tactics for a living, and he tells me how the battle for Mariupol likely will play out. Also ahead tonight, united they stand. President Biden heads for Europe to rally world leaders to punish Vladimir Putin. We'll be right back. We're following breaking news. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas in the hospital tonight. We're just learning about this. Let's get right to CNN Supreme Court analyst Joan Biscupit. Joan, what are you learning?
This just came through like 3 minutes ago, Pamela. Justice Thomas, who is 73 years old, was admitted to Sibley Hospital here in Washington, D.C. on Friday evening with flu-like symptoms. He was treated with antibiotics. They say that his condition is now abating, but he's going to be in the hospital for another couple days. They've put it out, made it sound as if he can still participate in cases in some way. The justices are back tomorrow, the same day that we're going to have the hearings for Judge Jackson. But it's hard to know how serious it is. He's already going to be in the hospital for several days. We know that it doesn't sound like it's COVID related because they've described it as flu-like symptoms that he's being treated with antibiotics for. And I do want to tell you that we don't know if he's ever had COVID, but we do know that he has gotten all the COVID shots and the boosters because the court has said that. Just not sure how serious. It doesn't sound, it says that his symptoms are abating, but as I said, he's 73 years old, to be in the hospital for a couple days. So we really wish that this is something that is that he's on the recovery now and that we'll learn more sooner rather than later. But this is the only word that came out so far. It was from the court spokeswoman, Patricia McCabe, and hopefully we'll know a little bit more tomorrow. But Justice Thomas is quite a force on this Supreme Court. Here he is after 30 decades. He was put on the bench by President George H.W. Bush. He was always seen as sort of on the fringe for his far-right conservatism, but now the court has gotten so conservative that he's in the vanguard. This is really Justice Thomas's time. Some people have, sort of kiddingly referred to it as Thomas's court, Chief Justice Thomas. I would never go that far myself, but I'm just telling you that he's playing a much larger role on the Supreme Court, and he is the most senior justice besides the chief, just by virtue of his tenure there. So this is I'm sure it's going to rattle some people. I do not know about any other health problems he's had through the years. He has not missed court. He's tended to be there. We'd always been watching like Justice Ginsburg,
right,
obviously,
I was going to bring that up, right.
And Justice Sotomayor, who happens to be a diabetic, has always taken very strong precautions during COVID. Justice Ginsburg, before she passed away, did hear oral arguments from a hospital once up at Johns Hopkins. I don't know if that will be the case for Justice Thomas this week. The court will be sitting on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and they have piped in justices in the past, and maybe there's a chance we'll hear his very booming baritone asking questions this week, or maybe not. Maybe he'll just have to rest up for a while and then come back at 100% strength later in the month.
We'll have to watch and see, but the statement is encouraging in that it says he should be released in a day or two, and that they did find the infection, so therefore they're giving him the antibiotics to treat it. So, but still an important development. A lot of Supreme Court news going on this Sunday night. Joan Biscupik, thank you.
Thank you.
Sending it back to you now, Don, who is in Lviv. For us tonight, Don.
Right. You're right about that. And the timing, I mean, can you imagine the timing here on the eve of confirmation hearings? We'll keep you updated on that. Pamela, thank you very much. And, Up next, man, from insult to injury, really, we're going to hear from Ukrainian heroes here in Lviv trying to save some of the youngest victims of Putin's war. We're talking about orphans. We'll be right back. This next story, talks about the ripple effect of war. It really defines that and what's going on here. CNN's Salma Abdelaziz now joins me here in Lviv. Salma, you've been working to track down children who had to be evacuated from an orphanage. I mean, it is unbelievable what they're dealing with. Tell us what you came across and what's going on.
So this was an orphanage in the very hard-hit area of Sumy. This is one of the places where there's the fiercest fighting. This orphanage had 71 children that basically their caretakers took them into a basement for 2 weeks. Wow. These are children who had medical conditions. Some of them had disabilities, cerebral palsy, health issues, and they had to be treated in basements with these caretakers for 2 weeks until a humanitarian corridor opened up. But you can imagine that journey was not easy to get them to Kyiv. I want you to take a listen to what we found.
Just for baby in the car, journey from Sumy to Kiev during 6 hours without doctor, just a driver. Children don't die.
So they took these 71 kids. They divided them up over just 4 ambulances. So you had multiple children in each ambulance. There was only 2 doctors. So there was ambulances where there was multiple children and no doctors, and they're driving out of a war zone for 6 hours to kind of the safety of Kyiv. We hear that some of them now are going to make it here to us in Lviv. We're going to try to track them when they arrive tomorrow. But it's just another sign of very young, innocent children caught in the crosshairs, caught in the crossfire, and these humanitarian corridors, Dawn, they're supposed to work, right? It's supposed to be an agreement. Oftentimes, Ukrainian forces say they're being shelled by Russian artillery.
We're talking children of what ages? From
1 month. These
gosh.
nurses showed me a child that was just 1 month old. One was on a feeding tube. One needed a heart operation. So these are kids that are extremely vulnerable. And again, these nurses are telling me they're orphans, right? So they said we are their moms and dads now until we find a solution.
All right, Salma, thank you very much. We look forward to more of your reporting on this. We really appreciate it. Salma Abdelaziz. Now I want to bring in now Congresswoman Jackie Speer. The Congresswoman is a Democrat who sits on the House Intelligence and Armed Services Committees. Thank you very much. I have to get you to respond to the story that Salma just brought to us. I mean, it really shows you, the horrors of war and just the inhumanity in what Russia is doing and Vladimir Putin is doing to the people of Ukraine.
As I was listening to the story, Don, my eyes started to tear up. I mean, I cannot believe that these fragile infants and children are not being protected in this war area. I mean, these humanitarian corridors must be respected. And I don't know what else we can do to make sure this happens, but there's 44 million people that live in Ukraine, and already 10 million of them have been displaced, half of them children. Some of them have left the country, but I mean, there's still so many Ukrainians in the country that need to find safety, and these corridors can't be trusted.
Let's talk about the president's visit to Europe. He's going to travel to Europe in a few days to meet with world leaders and discuss Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Congresswoman. Jen Psaki says the president will not visit Ukraine during the trip. Would you have been shocked if he planned a stop here?
They would never actually announce that or telegraph that. It wouldn't surprise me if he does, but it's not going to be announced. So I think this meeting is critical, though, because it's probably going to result in more sanctions, more efforts to provide aid to Ukraine by the NATO countries, including the United States. And conceivably, if there's unison, they will now reject Russian oil, which would really be a very significant step.
Yeah, it was, I was just talking in the break with Salma as we were here, and we were saying there's no way that they would announce a trip like this. This isn't some Christmas or holiday visit to, a base in Iraq or a base where we have American soldiers who are on the ground who have been fighting a war that has been going on. So I think you're right on about that. Zelensky says that he is ready for peace talks with Putin. If Putin proposes a deal, that includes Ukraine renouncing its ambitions to join NATO in exchange for peace. Is that a valid negotiating point? I heard someone on earlier saying, why is it the victim of terror or the victim of violence or war? Why does a victim have to make a concession? What do you think of that? Is that a valid negotiating point?
Well, I think if President Zelensky can negotiate that deal and peace can be at hand, and the Ukrainian people can continue to find ways to rebuild their country, that would be a great deal. Now, I understand that it's the victim negotiating, but this country has already been invaded, and the rest of the world, while we're providing aid, hasn't done much more than that. So he's not in the strongest position, although it's remarkable that he has been able to hold the Russian military and protect Kyiv, which was supposed to be the linchpin for Putin. And I think the resolve of the Ukrainian people is truly something that we should all look upon and see if we have that same resolve in our country.
Well, let's talk about what has been done, because this week the White House released a detailed list of weapons that it was providing as part of an $800 million package of arms to Ukraine. When does that equipment begin to arrive? What difference do you hope that it will make in this invasion?
Well, certainly the measures that we have actually authorized, it's, the package itself is close to $13 billion, but this initial amount is including 800 Stingers anti-aircraft, 9,000 anti-tank weapons, and some 20 million rounds of ammunition, and also 100 drones. So that is a significant arsenal. And I believe that is in the process now of being
Congresswoman, we will be watching as this continues, and we hope to have you back on. Thank you very much. We appreciate you appearing.